Hey everybody, just going to do a quick recap of successes for African Americans during Reconstruction and go over the difficulties and failures that we see, basically why the Reconstruction effort failed during the 1870s. All right, let's get rocking. So, just to recap, this is something that we've already gone over a lot in class, but African Americans vote like crazy after the Civil War during the Reconstruction era. 9 out of 10 of these African American men, because of the 15th Amendment, are signing up to vote. And they're also voting heavily for Republicans because President Lincoln was a Republican. He was the one who freed them. The Emancipation Proclamation and later the 13th Amendment. Some really amazing things happened during this time. If you want to pause it, you can read and look more into this, but check this out. These are kind of unheard of statistics for the time. Even today, we don't see things like a majority black legislature for a state. So these are unprecedented, historic. Jobs and lifestyle, big changes for them during this time. Former slaves can vote. Talked about that a little. They can travel freely. They can hold jobs. They're getting paid for their work. Might not be much, might not be enough. They're actually getting paid. It's a huge life change. Second bullet point is more of a sad reality. It's frustrating and disappointing, but it's true. Education is a big part. Take a look at the statistic here. 80% could not read or write that were over the age of 20. Think about how important it is to read and write. Think about how much you use it every day. We're probably not aware how important it is because it's so routine, ordinary. Check this out. We got African Americans are funding African American education. We also see the Freedmen's Bureau funding education as well. The outcome is things like Howard University, Fisk, Hampton, Tuskegee. All these colleges come to be during this time. Many of these colleges that are made still exist today. Howard is one of those universities that's still around today. So, successes are great. There are many. We didn't cover all of them. There are more. But this is a good, solid chunk of big, awesome things that happened during the Reconstruction. Unfortunately, Reconstruction fails. And so now we're going to look at a couple of reasons why it fails. 6 of them to be exact. First reason is sharecropping. I'm going to skip this slide, so if you're looking at this on your own, you can stay here, but more information is on the second one with this graphic. So this on the back said how it worked, but I blew it up so you could see a little better. Sharecropping is a cycle of poverty. You can see the circle, and it's going to continue for that sharecropper and even continue for that sharecropper's children and even the grandchildren. They'll be in this cycle of poverty. Here's how it works. Sharecropper gets land from a former slave owner, a wealthy white landowner. He promises to give some of the crops to the landowner, that sharecropper does. In order to start off, though, think about these former slaves have to get money, and they have to do it by taking out credit. They're going to take out credit for land, supplies, clothing, food, and all that adds up. Let's say they take out $100 in credit as a loan, we'll call it. Great. They plant their cotton in this case. That cotton grows and they harvest the cotton. Once we get down to 4, that sharecropper gives the cotton over to the landowner. Landowner says, well, I'll sell that for you and give you the money that you've earned. Remember, they're $100 in the red, -100. At that point, the landowner says, sorry, we only made $80 from that cotton. So you actually owe me $20 because your debt was $100. But don't worry, step 6. Next year, you'll make more money. So next year, what I'll do is I'll tack the minus 20 onto what I charge you, and maybe you'll be able to make up that cost the next year. What happens then? They have to take out more money, take out another loan. So instead of 100 only, maybe it's 120 bucks. This is a huge problem, huge disaster for former slaves, and it lasts for decades. Okay, 2 really quick ones. We have the rise of hate groups. There's a lot to talk about here, but really these groups like the Ku Klux Klan are going to come around and keep people from voting, keep people from getting education, keep people from living a normal, happy life. And when I say people, I mean mostly African Americans. These are going to be white Southerners who maybe were former Confederacy and don't want African Americans to have equal rights in the South or really in all of the United States. A big part of why that happens is because of the Amnesty Act, which allows former Confederates the right to vote, which means you have Confederates running for political office like sheriff, judge, senators, representatives, all sorts of political positions, and that gives them a lot of power and safety from any persecution. Think Ku Klux Klan could go out and do something bad. If the sheriff knows somebody in the group, or maybe they're okay with a bad thing happening to African Americans, they might not really do anything in response to a complaint about a Ku Klux Klan attack. And we see that quite frequently during the Reconstruction. Big thing as well, Panic of 1873. So the banks close, stock market crashes. It's like an economic depression. This means that money stops going to the South to create schools, to fund voting registration. All those things go away because there's no money to fund it. Supreme Court decisions during this time are pretty impactful. They limit federal enforcement, and they enhance or increase states' ability to enforce laws. Think about those people elected to power. You got Confederate sympathizers and people like that who are in power in the South, as opposed to Union or United States federal government enforcing laws. So this is the last thing we'll talk about. I tried to keep it brief, but there's a lot to cover. Election of President Hayes is the end of the Reconstruction. And here's why. I'm going to skip ahead to this. You'll see that the electoral votes, it looks like Rutherford B. Hayes is the president, right? He has more electoral votes than Tilden. If you look in the popular vote, you'll see that this number, the popular votes for Hayes, is lower than the popular votes for Tilden. Now the South, mostly Democrat, was enraged. They were very upset. They refused to acknowledge that Hayes was the rightful president, even though he won the electoral vote. That's all you need to win president in the United States. So I'll go back. The outcome of the election is Hayes says, let's make a compromise, a deal. I'll be the president if we pull out all federal army and interventions from the South. The South says, let's do it. Leave us alone. We'll carry out our life the way we want to carry it out, and you can be the president of the United States. And that brings us to this picture. What you see is that this compromise is basically what some people view as the North saying, we lose, we can't figure out how to make the South and the whites in the South treat African Americans respectfully. There's no way we're going to be able to do this. And this is a Confederate soldier going, haha, I win, you lose. And that's the end of the Reconstruction. 1877 and the Compromise of 1877 ends the Reconstruction. All that effort that went into it is basically nullified with one compromise. A sad ending. It's frustrating. It's one of the hardest parts of U.S. history to cover. I'm going to stop talking. It's been 10 minutes. Thanks so much.